Welcome to the Holistic Inner Balance Podcast with Dr. Nicole and Happy Healthy Hadlee.
Your go-to resource for natural mental health and wellness strategies so that you can become the expert of your own emotional and physical well-being.
Merging modern science with ancient wisdom. Hello and welcome to the Holistic Inner Balance Podcast. I'm Hadlee.
And I'm Dr. Nicole. We're so excited. We have one of my most favorite people. They're going to be a part of the interview today. And what's especially meaningful to me is that we have been friends for many, many years. And we've grown as people, as colleagues, and I often refer to you as my guru. And it's just such a joy. Recently, you also wrote a book, and we're going to be talking about this during our conversation today. And so I want to just give us all a really brief interview of this absolutely incredible human. And so this is going to come from the bio of the book, and we're going to be sure to have show links so that you can click to learn more, to order the book. Seriously, my friends, I love this. So if you fall asleep after this intro, just make sure that you bookmark the book and hang out, because this is going to be a wild ride, and I'm feeling really kind of spicy, so you're going to see spicy Nicole. So this is Dr. Karthik Ramanan, one of my best friends in the world, an incredible healer, a very wise person. He is your emotional health mentor. He holds degrees from Cornell University and Sonoran University of Health Science. And he started his career on Wall Street, decided it was a good idea to go to medical school, and he has since that time been helping people find the wonder within. He works with all sorts of individuals across the spectrum. He has helped thousands of people reverse chronic stress and burnout, embody the life they deserve to live. He also has a zone of genius for corporate wellness and works with a lot of really high-powered CEOs and is making a huge difference on a big scale. So we are delighted to have you today. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited because we were just talking before the show about how we feel like we know each other just through Dr. Nicole. So I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, you guys are like besties adjacent.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
Exactly.
Pretty much,
Exactly. Yes.
I kind of wanted to start the conversation with the why, with the caveat of what were you thinking?
Which part?
Which part? Because you started in a very important, financially viable job in corporate finance. And then you're like, I think I'm going to go and spend $250,000 and go to medical school and burn out my adrenal glands and spend your 20s, 30s, that kind of window of time, not out having fun, but studying medicine. And I just feel like that seems like you have to have a big why.
For sure. Well, conveniently, my adrenals were already burned out.
Oh, well, perfect.
Yeah, so that I didn't really have anything to lose there. So really, what it came down to is, I started working on Wall Street in 2005, right out of undergrad. And it was one of those opportunities that I said, okay, you know what? I'm just going to put my head down, work really hard, just build myself up, like learn as much as I can. I don't know what the long-term vision is, but hey, I'm 22, so who cares, right? Just go and work hard and see what happens. What I didn't realize in 2005 was that we were walking into the Great Recession. And so, I remember vividly just coming in on a Monday morning in September, normal day, just like anything else. And we walk in, we sit down, we're getting on with our day. And then, we're sitting like trading desk style. And we have these big TVs above us on CNBC, and it says Lehman Brothers goes bankrupt. And all of us across the floor at the same time have the same realization. They are our next door neighbors. And so we all run to that side of the tower. We look down, and we just see thousands of people walking out with filing boxes when this 165-year-old bank just goes under over the weekend. And it was one of those moments that just made me go, okay, safe corporate job, maybe not. So I responded, though, the only way I knew how, which is just work harder, right? Make myself as indispensable as possible, say yes to every project. I didn't know the term people pleaser at the time, but that was it. But you know what? It served me well in terms of just being able to move up in my career. I was given some wonderful opportunities. I was able to take advantage of those. And so fast forward now a few years, it's 2011, and I had gotten my first apartment of my own, no roommates, for the first time in my life. I'm in my late 20s, and 30th floor, beautiful skyrise, wall-to-wall, floor-to-ceiling windows. And I'm just looking out over the New Jersey horizon one night, thousands of dots across the sky, just reflecting on all the sacrifice and work that it took to get to that point in time. And this 14, 16, 18-hour days at times, answering the BlackBerry at 1 in the morning when I had to get up at 4:30, missing the family events, all those things. And I had been promoted to associate and then vice president faster than anyone in my department had to that point. I was able to pay off my undergraduate student loans. I was able to pay off my parents' credit card debt, able to give more to charity than I ever thought I could at that age. And I hated the man in the mirror. So that is ultimately, when you ask why, it was that aspect of, I couldn't understand. I have all these things that you're supposed to have to be happy, and yet it was so far from my reality. I didn't let anybody at the office know that I was struggling, but I was definitely dealing with, moving back into depression that I had experienced years prior, and I said, I cannot let myself get there. So I did everything that I possibly could to, get healthier and all of those things. But the only things that I really wanted in life was a great relationship and marriage and meaningful work. Both of those were nowhere in sight. And so again, responded the only way I knew how. Work harder, make myself as indispensable, pour that into myself in terms of P90X and all those things.
Oh,
and so,
yeah, so much P90X.
So much P90X. And it still wasn't moving me any closer. And finally, I just hit rock bottom. And it was at that time, though, the universe always gives us what we need at the right time. So I saw my sister after a 3-month window. And in that 3 months, she had lost 30 pounds. Her cystic acne had cleared up. She just looked vibrant as ever. And I said, okay, whatever she did, I was going to do. And so I asked her, and she goes, I've just been eating this, raw food, plant-based diet. I said, what is that? So she's like, I've just been eating fresh fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds just as they're found from the earth. I said, oh my God, this sounds horrible. Show me how to do this. And so one thing changed in that moment. I recognized anytime, P90X or whatever, right, diets, I'd just go cold turkey, just do, my mentality was, as a perfectionist, was if I can't do it perfectly, it's not worth trying it at all. Mm-hmm. And the beautiful part about rock bottom is that you're willing to do anything. You're willing to say yes to the things that you otherwise would never say yes to. And one of those was like, well, you know what? I'm just going to gradually change the way I eat and the way I think and see what happens. Well, 3 weeks in, I looked down at the scale, lowest number I'd seen as an adult. But at that point, my mind blew open. I just said, wait a second, what if that confidence that I wanted, that relationship that I wanted, that life that I wanted, what if all of it was possible and the only one holding me back was me? And that was the thing that opened my mind to this idea that, wait, there's so much more to this lens through which we see the world than I've ever given myself credit for. And what if this lens was wrong, so to speak, right? What if the things that I assumed about myself or about the world around me wasn't always true? And so I just went on this journey of just, okay, let's just eat this way, start shifting the way I think, see what happens. People started noticing the changes, asking for advice. I'd bring in some food and recipes. People lost some weight, but I saw type 2 diabetes, chronic migraines, chronic joint pain, hypertension, all this stuff disappear. And I thought, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I need to figure out how to do this for a living, because this is fulfilling. I could feel that for the first time. And so I did some research, found out about naturopathic medicine, and the rest is history. I said, you know what? I'm going to make the worst financial decision of my entire life by leaving this career and going into all that debt and everything else. And nothing is promised on the other side, by the way. But I just felt like I had to do this. And certainly along the way, getting to meet people who were instrumental in my success, like you, was everything that that allowed me to make that change and feel good about it as time went on, for sure.
I have something that stuck out for me as you were talking. There were two things. And one is looking in the mirror and not liking what you see.
Yeah.
And then you talked about changing the lens through which you saw yourself and the world and possibility in the future. And these 2 points, I think people really can resonate with. I've worked with so many people, in fact, myself, where there's been these moments when throughout my life I've looked in the mirror and felt so much ugliness, whether it's shame or embarrassment or grief or like that perfectionism, like and not enoughness.
Yeah.
And in fact, I remember there's a patient that comes to mind when they would set their items in their desk chair at work and they would walk by the office and look in and see their items, that even seeing their items created such an overwhelming sense of shame and disgust. And we see this. And this shame, this guilt, this yuckiness that we experience is data about what needs healing and how. But we have to have that ability to zoom out so that we can see that what we're looking through is a lens. And so then that's where you made the second point, where I would love to learn a little more, is what is that process, or for you, what did that process look like of changing that lens? Because I feel like it's not as simple as, well, just look on the bright side and think positive and talk to yourself in the mirror and say, I am beautiful, I am loved. And so for you, what did that look like?
Well, just on that last point real quick, I've had clients come to me after working with various life coaches and going through trauma counseling for their challenges earlier. And so they've made great progress, but then when they're trying to build their next self and they're going to these coaches and saying, well, it's the affirmations. And I remember one client specifically saying, Dr. K, I've tried the affirmation thing. I just feel like I'm lying to myself. And I said, you are. You are. If it feels like you're lying to yourself, you are. And actually, that's more counterproductive. So as far as the process of changing the lens, ultimately, when do we all change? Nature, it's not just us as human beings. An organism changes when it hurts enough. And so we're so wired to avoid pain and seek pleasure. But I think if we are willing to look at the things that are ugly and not healthy in our life, and the things that, and maybe that's a job that we dislike or a relationship that we know is not going anywhere, or whatever it is, and we really look at that instead of saying, I hope it'll get better, never confuse hope for a plan. If instead of saying that, what if we could just say, okay, what is this situation allowing me to do that I would not be able to do otherwise? And so when you can start to look at it that way, it's not just this toxic positivity of, oh, look on the bright side and here's, silver lining. No, it's simply pain has always been our greatest teacher. So I can't understand what that is about right now, but clearly it is supposed to teach me something. What is this situation allowing me to do that I would not be able to do otherwise? I think it's really important to remember that, nature is very much a pendulum. And so if we feel, oh, I'm not good enough, we can't just convince ourselves on the other side, no, you are good enough. You have to look at the entire spectrum through a different lens to say, well, where does this assessment of good enough even come from? And one of the concepts that I develop, that I teach my clients, is called the truth cycle. It's in the book. And it's a process to really understand how did we develop who we are? Because here's an example. If we truly are not good enough, and we were wired to believe that in all circumstances, right? It is part of our being as a human being, then none of us would be walking. And here's why. If you ever watched a kid learn how to walk, they ever get it the first time, Never. Maybe not the 100th time. Right? But what do? What did we do? We got up and we just kept walking until we learned how to walk. And now the moment we want to try something new, it's like maybe it's content creation, right? Oh, started a podcast. Oh, I only got 10 views on the first one. I guess I'm not a good podcaster, right? We just throw that out the window because we are looking for evidence to support something that we already believe about ourselves, this truth, this lens through which we see the world. I call it a truth. It's a subjective truth. It is unconscious to us, but we're looking for things that support that. And that might not actually be objectively true. And so to try to figure out what is objectively true, that's the real journey. That's the real journey.
So good. I love how you talk about the need to zoom out, but then also the need to just tweak things a little bit at a time, too. Like, I think a lot of times when people think, oh, I need to zoom out, I'm at this rock bottom moment, now I need to overhaul everything in my life right now. And I know that's how I used to think, because perfectionism over here. I would love to have you talk a little bit more about, like, how do you both zoom out and kind of zoom in on the details as well?
Every situation is different, and I think this is why it's so valuable to have somebody in your corner that can help you see it a little bit more clearly. Mm-hmm. It depends on what's going on. So sometimes I've had clients come in that are in a position where they can overhaul a whole lot of things at once. So, my 5 pillars of emotional health: your psychology, relationships, nutrition, sleep, and body movement. I've had clients that have come in and wanted to work on 3 of them at a time. Said, okay, well, if you can slow down if it gets a little complicated, but oftentimes it's like, find the one thing, and this is I think something that we lose sight of. There's the Pareto principle, 80-20, right? What's the 20% of effort that gets 80% of the results? Well, here's one thing. Like, if all right, if I improve my food, I'm probably going to feel a little bit more energized. When you feel energized, you might want to move your body a little bit more. When you want to move your body a little bit more, now all of a sudden you might maybe get a little bit more tired at the end of the day, or you're spending more time outside. That resets your circadian rhythm a little bit more. You're able to sleep better, and see, one thing leads to another. And so instead of overhauling the whole thing, you can just look at the point of the greatest return just by tweaking that one thing. But sometimes it's not even, I'm thinking about a specific client of mine who, so he owns a security company here in Phoenix, and has about 45 employees, and weight of the world is on his shoulders in terms of making sure they're able to feed their families, and it goes through his mind all the time. And so when he came to me, he was having some struggles at home with his ex-wife, 4 kids. Big, tough guy, everything, right? He comes into my office just more for the discovery meeting, and I ran out of tissues. It was one of the most emotional conversations I've been a part of. And so he came back, he started working with me. I said, okay, session number 1, we talked about a few things, didn't even get to truth cycle, anything else, just talked about human needs. But I said, all right, what are your things? The things that you love doing for no reason at all? He's like, I don't know where this is going. All right, so he's like, I love working out, I love having dinner with my kids with no devices nearby, I love riding my motorcycle. I said, hold on, okay. When was the last time you rode your motorcycle? It's like, I don't know, maybe once in the last 3 months. I said, okay, you just told me this is one of the things that makes you feel the most alive, and you haven't done it in the last 3 months. So your only homework before I see you in 2 weeks is to ride your motorcycle 8 times, 4 times each week. And he's like, really, Dr. K? That's
Done.
it? That's it? Like, that's this groundbreaking, I said, just do it.
Trust me.
He comes back after 2 weeks, because I knew I couldn't, this was not the time to talk about what was going on in his life and everything else, right?
Totally.
Talk about his business stress. It wasn't time for any of that.
Yeah.
It was simply, go ride your motorcycle and come back in 2 weeks, right? He comes back, and he's like a new man. He's like, oh my God, I don't know why I haven't been doing this. And I said, it's simple, because when we are in a spiral, we think that all these things need to change, and then we don't do anything. But what if we just do the little things that make us connect with ourselves, help us feel alive, and go from there? And now it's been over a year. I did ask him the other week. So, by the way, we haven't talked about this in a while, but how's the bike? He's like, oh, ride it everywhere I possibly can. If I don't have my kids, I'm riding the bike. So I said, well, see, there you go.
The principles of Ayurveda talks about this. How when we're in a state of imbalance, we tend to lean towards those things that will keep us in that way of being out of balance.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, it's like what you crave is kind of where you already are. So you crave things that bring you further out of balance. But the good news is that when you get back into balance, then you crave things that actually keep you in balance.
Right.
So like
Momentum.
Yes.
It's simple momentum.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so good.
You were talking about, and you and I both resonated very much with it. I saw us both kind of putting our hands up, is this perfectionism. And so I know something about you that maybe people who are listening or watching don't know. But when we met, you were doing a mastication vacation.
Yeah. Right.
And so can you explain, first of all, what that is and how you were able to pivot from feeling like I need to like maintain this mastication vacation to I'm able to make small but powerful big changes and help people do that? Because I think many of us who are watching or listening are like, okay, I'm going to read Dr. K's book. I'm going to do all of the 5 pillars. I'm going to do them to perfection. I'm going to ride my motorcycle 64 times in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm like, kind of teasing a little bit, but also like, I need to know this for me.
Yeah. That's right. So this was in medical school. I was dealing with a lot of food addiction at the time, and I thought, you know what? Because it's that craving of like needing to chew something all the time, especially when you're stressed, like in medical school.
Mm-hmm. Because it does regulate your nervous system.
It does.
Like it actually
does,
works.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, but I said, you know what? I'm going to remove the pleasure from it by basically blending all my food and consuming it that way for 108 days. And
108 days.
No.
He didn't masticate.
Yeah.
Chew for 108 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Admirable discipline.
However, just like I mentioned earlier, if we're at one extreme, to simply go to the other extreme, all it does is create more of a rebound effect. So that was a great lesson actually for me just in my own life to go, okay, what if instead of thinking about the primary outcome, what if we address something on the side that will create the rebound effect to the desired outcome? And, I think especially with perfectionism, I think it's important to understand why we feel the need to be perfect. Like, what is the drive? And now here's the thing. If you're addicted to cigarettes or alcohol or even food or what, you can understand that, okay, some of these things are addictions and we need to move ourselves out of that place. Nobody ever calls being a workaholic a bad thing, right? Oh, you got great work ethic. We need people like that at our company.
Even saying workaholic is still a little bit like, oh, I'm just such a workaholic.
Yeah, it's like a
it's
badge
a good
of
thing.
honor.
It's like a little
Yeah.
brag. It's a humble brag. Yeah.
And it's now. So here's example. So let's say you were wanting to take your significant other for a nice dinner. It's their birthday. You want to get, the works, right? So you want it to be an amazing experience. So think about your go-to restaurant, the place that you know is going to be an awesome experience. Nothing will go wrong, everything else. So you go there, and are your expectations high or low?
Oh,
Through the roof.
Through the roof, right?
Jinx.
So through the roof. So your expectations are high. Now, let's say you get a waiter totally on his game, great recommendations, knows everything on the menu, able to describe it down to the ingredient, the right drink pairings, everything. Food's on time. It's fantastic. Great experience. So your expectations were high, but this managed to go even above that. So now are you happy or how do you feel?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was acceptable.
Exceeded expectations.
Exceeded expectations. So you feel good.
On your
So
report card.
here's your expectations. It comes in above your reality, comes in above expectations. You feel good. Mm-hmm. Now, let's say alternate universe. Dude's not having a good day, right? Spills a drink on you guys, gets the order wrong. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. So your expectations are here. Reality came in down here. Now how do you feel?
I am sad. I'm disappointed.
Bummed. Really bummed.
Right?
Yeah.
So all these positive emotions when you're above and negative emotions when it falls below your expectations. Yeah. Expectations drive how we feel in response to a situation. And unfortunately, a lot of these situations are outside of our control. You can't control what kind of day he's having. You can't control whether there's traffic on the way there. You can't control if they got a bad shipment of tomatoes and now you both get food poisoning. You can't control any of that, right? And yet, what we allow ourselves to do is to allow our emotional state to be dictated by all these factors that are outside of our control. And so we're setting ourselves up for failure, but this still applies to how we view ourselves. What are the expectations that we have for ourselves? And again, this is my former Wall Street medical school, same guy, right? I've had to take a different approach to this now. But so it's simply this, like if your expectations are up here, and even if you meet them sometimes, especially when you're talking about ourselves, it's like, okay, what's next,
Yep,
right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so what's the secret to happiness?
It's on page 57.
No. Based on what I just said, what's the secret to happiness?
Yeah.
With your expectations.
First part, not second part.
Lower your expectations.
Is your skin crawling?
I like having low expectations. So my husband and I have this conversation.
Okay.
He thinks the best of people. He has high expectations of people. And I love that about him. And he holds himself to a really high standard. And then I'm the opposite. I'm like, I'm just going to expect the worst and be delighted. So he walks around somewhat disappointed. And I walk around, I'm like, that was not terrible.
That was not terrible.
I'm like, this is delightful.
But at the same time, if I were to say that to, what do you expect of your own performance in, at work or whatever else, right?
Oh, yeah.
Through the roof high.
I would reject that.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So every time I ask that question in a room of executives or other business owners, it's like, don't. That's like, don't ever do that's. Lower my expectations. Are you kidding me?
Right?
Like, how am I supposed to run an organization? How am I supposed to live a good life myself if I just everything's okay?
Yeah.
Right.
And with your colleagues and stuff too, you don't want to have low expectations for them either, right?
But at the same time, you can't control what they do or don't do, and so we're setting ourselves up for disappointment. However, the flip side of that is this: expectations drive how we feel in response to a situation. Standards dictate what you will and will not tolerate going forward.
Hold on, say that again. That was a mic drop.
So expectations drive how you feel in response to a situation. Standards dictate what you will and will not tolerate going forward. So for instance, if you've been to that restaurant 15 times and this one time, the 16th time, was a flop, are you going to go back there again? 15 times, it's been amazing. Maybe this one dude, the one time,
Yeah.
Would he give me free breadsticks?
They made it right. Yeah, they made it right.
Oh, they made
comped
it
your
right.
stuff.
Yeah, of course I'll go back.
You go back, right? But
Absolutely,
let's say you go back the second time, different server, still not good. Are you going to go back after that?
If I have to lower my expectations and not hold them accountable, then probably not.
Right. Right. So if you recognize, okay, you know what, 15 times it's been great. The last two, I don't know what happened to this restaurant.
Yes.
Right? You're not going to go back.
Right.
And that's called raising your standards. You're saying now this restaurant has fallen below my standards for special occasions, those gotta have it, dinners, that kind of thing, right? So it's the same thing here, but what ends up happening when we're a perfectionist is we have it backwards. We have extremely high expectations of ourselves, ones that we oftentimes can't even achieve, and we have very low standards because we treat ourselves like crap, right? So instead, if we do it the other way, we recognize, okay, expectations are things outside, or relate to things outside of my control, but standards are entirely within my control. So then what ends up happening, and so this is what I call the framework for joy, so how to be a high achiever while not beating yourself up, while not setting yourself up for disappointment, is simply this: lowering your expectations is understanding so much of this is outside of my control. However this happens, it happens. However, going forward, or even in this moment, I'm going to make sure that the rules by which I live my life, the people I surround myself with, how I treat myself and the people around me, the food that we eat or don't eat, whether we drink or don't drink, whatever, all those things. What are the standards by which we live our lives, and raise them? Now, what's uncomfortable about that is oftentimes that might mean, there's some friends that we might have to sort of distance ourselves a little bit from. Still love them, still support them. We just don't spend as much time, because we are the average of the 5 people and ideas we spend the most time with. So it's a way of, okay, I have to raise my standards in order to be around people that are going after similar things in life that I am. So in business, that comes up in, let's say, networking groups and things like that, where you just recognize, okay, based on where I'm going, like who can I spend time with that is playing that game of business or life in a way that is resonant to where I want to go. That's raising your standards. You might still love the people that were in your previous networking group or whatever else, still be friends, all that. But where do you spend your time regularly? Raising your standards, in the case of your husband here, right? The lowering your expectations just allows us to not be disappointed when somebody does something one way and it might have upset us otherwise. Raising the standards might mean, I'm not going to rely on that person going forward. Or maybe give them another chance, but after that to go, love you, but I'm going to find somebody else who can help me in that area.
I feel like it's similar to the conversation around boundaries, it sounds like. It's like sometimes people think that boundaries are like trying to control other people's actions, but really it's like standards. It's like, this is how I am going to respond to whatever is happening going forward, or to let them know these are my standards.
Yeah.
Actually,
one of the chapters in the book, so I say something maybe controversial, that I'm not a fan of boundaries. I'm not a fan of boundaries in the way that they're typically described, the way that you mentioned, right? The boundary to me is like, if you watch Game of Thrones, like the wall, right? Nothing penetrates the wall. Nothing goes across the wall. To me, let's put that as far out as we possibly can. These are the rules that we will never cross. Like, we're never going to commit a crime. We're never going to hurt somebody intentionally. We're never, those type of things. That's the boundary. I'm not going across that. But when people put up a boundary to say, I don't, especially it happens a lot when it comes to family members,
yes.
Where I don't want to be treated like that. Now, yes, that you don't want to be treated like that, but then and I've been there, by the way. It's easy. I'm putting up boundaries. I'm going to cut them out. I tried that, but there's aspects of, is this who I want to be? Like, I got to live with myself at the end of this. Are there experiences that we could be sharing, beautiful ones that we're losing out on as a result? So instead, raise the standards. So raising the standards would be, how do I communicate with this person? How do I show up so that they can show up as hopefully a better version of themselves consistently over time, not expecting anything in return? And I've seen that work wonders even in my own life, where people can go from your harshest critic to your greatest fan just by how you show up. But what was that? That was raising my standards for how I treated myself, how I showed up, and also when that person crosses the line, to just not give in to that and just the gentle correction. So now, certainly if somebody continues to disrespect that standard, then fine, But it's, to me, the standard is a little bit more flexible, where the boundary is like the outside limit, that no matter what, I'm not going past that line.
So in this, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to share with you guys something exciting that we're working on. And then when we come back, I want to learn from you, Dr. K, some practical tips from the Emotionally Healthy You. If you haven't gotten this book yet, everyone, please order it, and then share some words of encouragement when you read it online in Goodreads and Amazon. And then when we come back, I would like to hear some practical take-homes that we can start implementing right now. Does that sound all right?
Let's do it.
That's good.
Hello, it's Hadlee.
And Dr. Nicole.
Did you know that we collaborated together to create a dosha quiz? What is a dosha quiz?
We see in Ayurveda that there are 5 main elements that make up our health. And when those go out of balance, we can get symptoms. So the dosha quiz is here to help you identify if you're out of balance and in what way.
It's super helpful to know what your mind-body type is because health is not one size fits all. This was a huge moment.
It was a big aha moment for me. I was doing all these things that I thought would be helpful with my habits, my lifestyle, my eating, and I didn't know that I was actually making things worse for my type of imbalance.
So if you want to learn what your dosha is, your mind-body type, and then learn how to actually balance your dosha, you can take the quiz in our show notes.
All right, welcome back to the Holistic Inner Balance. Dr. Kane here.
And Hadlee.
And we have an incredible guest, Dr. K, and we've been talking about all sorts of wonderful things in the Emotionally Healthy You. I highly recommend this book. It's all about how to own your past and love your future. And so we've been talking about a lot of really, I think, game-changing ways of seeing ourselves and the world a little bit differently. We've talked about expectations, standards, boundaries, the lens through which we see ourselves and other people. And I was hoping that you could share with us some practical tips and steps that we might take for when we walk away from this conversation.
Absolutely. So the one that I bring up basically in every keynote, and I always preface it with, if you take away nothing from today, just do this, right? And it's simply this. So imagine you got your phone. How many of you listening use your phone as your alarm clock?
Oh,
okay. Both of you too?
I don't
Oh, not
anymore.
anymore?
No,
Okay,
no.
you still do? Oh,
I love this tip.
I'm so mad, you
Dr.
guys.
Nicole.
It's okay, it's fine. Call
We'll
me
have a
out.
conversation
We'll have
after
a
this.
conversation
We'll have
later.
a conversation. Actually, this might actually help you right here. So,
I need all the help I can get.
but think about what happens, right? At the end of the night, we're letting the blue light disrupt our melatonin production. We're allowing other thoughts from the outside world, because if we're on our phone, it's usually social media or something, right? So we're letting the outside world into our head, and even if we're trying to relax to puppy videos or something, it's still, you're going to come across something that might trigger a thought. So now we're a little bit more activated, but on top of that, okay, so we set the alarm, and what happens in the middle of the night? You got to go to the bathroom, 1 a.m. What happens? You come back and maybe somebody texted me in the middle of the night, right? God forbid, right? So we look at it.
It's 5 a.m. Is Dr. K up yet?
Right, yeah. And so we look, and now does that make it easier or harder to fall back asleep?
So much harder.
So much harder, right? Okay, so we've managed to fall back asleep, and then the alarm rings. We're smashing the phone, trying to find the button. Your eyes are blurry. We turn it off. The phone's in your hand. Okay, what's going to happen now? It's in your hand. Are you going to put it down and go, no, restraint, personal restraint. I'm not going to look at my phone. No. It's right there. And so we start to scroll, and we start to think, and we start to allow the outside world in. And so cortisol, which is our alertness hormone, raises to the highest at 30 minutes or so after we wake up. That's when we're coming into our body. We're waking up for the day. Now think about it, right? Everything, and you talk about this a lot, we're built for nature, right? We're built for nature. And so out in nature, why is that useful? For the alertness hormone to be so elevated to the peak of the day right after we wake up. We've been fasting all night, so we need to go look for food. We're alert and trying to take in the world, and meanwhile, we're taking in garbage that is on our phone. And maybe it's the text messages or the work emails or whatever else, but it is somebody else's agenda for us. And so what ends up happening, we scroll for a while, and if we're in bed for that long, we've given up control of our whole day before our feet even hit the floor. So instead, what I recommend is put your phone in another room at night to charge, and wake up each morning. Get a sunrise alarm clock. I love those things because they don't even have to hear the jarring sound. Just the sun rises gently, and it's beautiful. Or you wake up on your own and, brush your teeth, do your thing. Craft some morning me time that you just love. Maybe it's journaling, maybe it's meditating or praying, maybe it's making a cup of tea, spending some time outside, really powerful. You can combine a few of them. You can journal while you're outside. And but do something that makes you feel alive, right? Do one of those things.
Ride your motorcycle.
Yeah, ride a motorcycle. Maybe don't wake up your neighbors with a motorcycle first thing in the morning. But yeah, I mean, those things. So I've had clients that I was like, I never really get to smell my flowers in the morning in the garden, and it's always just a task to take care of them. But now I can actually go and enjoy them. It's some of those things, and do that for 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is. Do that every single day. And really, after 5 to 7 days, you recognize that, I'm a little bit more emotionally resilient to handle everything that comes up in the day later. Because we've spent that time connecting with ourselves first. It's a great time to review goals. It's a great time to, short-term and long-term. It's a great time to visualize. It's a great time to look at that vision board. It's a great time for all of those things. And instead, we just let the outside world in. So after you do that, then pick up the phone, go about your day. And that alone goes a very, very long way.
I want to emphasize something that you're saying with neuroscience too, is you talked about the endocrine system and that circadian rhythm that takes place. And in the morning, our amygdala is predominate as opposed to the logical brain. So when we wake up in the middle of the night and when we wake up in the morning, our amygdala, the emotional processing part of the brain, is forward. Right. And so our logical ability to think rationally and to problem solve and to compute and have good boundaries and all those things just isn't there until we wake up more. So, I woke up this morning and I was waiting for my morning cup of coffee. I'm so very blessed, you guys. I have to brag on my husband. Every morning he brings me a cup of coffee in bed. And so if he doesn't wake up before me, I get on my phone and then I just scroll, and that's a really bad habit. And then like you said, I'm being programmed by someone else's agenda, whatever's coming at me. And then emotionally it may feel bigger and less rational because I'm not awake yet while I'm waiting for my coffee. And then I'm sitting in bed and I'm awake and I'm emotional. And then I'm like, why can't I sleep in my bed? So I love what you're saying, and you knew it was going to help me, so I appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And it happens to all of us. I've had clients, or actually even back in my corporate days, like when you have the BlackBerry. I remember being so proud when I got one. It's like, ooh, I'm big time now. It's the worst thing. I want to chuck it in the Hudson River within 2 weeks. Anyway, but I'd wake up and then you'd see an email, and to that point, your amygdala is elevated. You read an email, you start freaking out, and then that's predominant, it's dominating your day to go forward. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, now I need to address this email. You go read it later. You're like, okay, that wasn't as scary as it felt earlier.
Totally.
Timing is everything.
Yes.
So don't set yourself up to be disappointed or stressed out. Take some time with yourself. So that's one tip. Another one I like to point out is, when you talk about human needs, right? There's Maslow's hierarchy, and people talk about various different models. And we've both dissected a human brain. The needs are not there as part of the brain. It's not a physical structure. So a model is a model one way or the other. The 4 areas that I like to look at with my clients are simply stability. So the roof over our head, food in our belly. That is, again, for survival out in nature, the modern day equivalent of that is money. So because money is the currency, literally, that allows us to have that stability. So if stability is rocked, usually nothing else matters. But number 2, belonging. So that sense of we need to be a part of our families, our communities, our workplaces, things like that. If we don't have a strong sense of belonging, then we feel isolated, we feel lonely. But even if those 2 areas are met, a lot of times I'll talk to people, even very high achieving people, who's like, I feel stuck. I feel stuck. What is that? Because number 3 is growth. If we don't feel like we are making progress or growing in different areas of our lives, then we feel like, effectively, just like in nature, if you're not growing, you're dying. Businesses as well, if you're not growing, you're dying. Somebody else will come and produce that product or service better. So we have to always continue to grow, but the problem is that growing is inherently against what our bodies want to do to preserve energy, right? 20% of our body's energy is just used by the brain to exist. So, it's like, oh, you know what? I'd like to learn how to play guitar. Oh, that's a lot of calories to burn. I'd like to learn how to not stress out every time, so-and-so texts me. That's going to be a lot of calories to burn. It's much easier to the body just wants to do, but a growth seeker is somebody who will understand that and still move past it and say, yes, but for fulfillment to happen, I must continue to grow as a human being. And then the fourth one is purpose. Unless we feel like we are here for a reason, it is very difficult to move forward in life. And again, even if you're growing, because sometimes you're growing, you're doing all these different things, but then I get the question from a lot of executives in their quiet moments, like, what's this all for? Right? What's this all for? And so that is where we need to recognize, okay, why, you talked about the why to start this interview. What is that really about? What do we need to do in order to find purpose and meaning in what we're doing? How can we contribute to the world around us? So really with the human needs, how do you put that in action is really just to look at those 4 areas. Where am I feeling out of balance? Is it stability? Is it belonging? Is it growth? Is it purpose? Doesn't mean that 3 of them are good and 1 of them's not. Sometimes all 4 are not in a great place. But if all 4 are not in a great place, start with stability. If stability is decent, but you're feeling lonely, then how do you, surround yourself with people that are living in the vision of who you want to be and strive for that? If it's a sense of growth, like where do you need to get better and grow as a person? What excites you? What will create that excitement? And then if it's purpose, then that's a deeper conversation, but what do you want your life to be about? What do you want your legacy to be, or anything along those lines, and really move in that direction?
Which is what you were just saying, is that brings us full circle to the beginning of our conversation today, is the why.
Yeah.
Is why are you at Goldman Sachs? Why are you in this beautiful apartment overlooking the city? And when you looked at the mirror, what did you feel, and why were you doing what you were doing? Yeah,
and I think it was me at that time listening to, there's something there that I am meant to be doing. And even looking back, there's no part of the journey that I regret. There's no part of the journey that I have any negative feelings at all toward, because this is, the subtitle of the book is How to Own Your Past to Love Your Future. If we look back on anything in our lives with a sense of, I don't want to deal with that, or that is hurtful to me, then address it, right? Because it's not going to get better on its own. So I'm a big fan of EMDR, like you are, and that can be very powerful. And so addressing those things, but also even when it's not traumatic, it's anymore, to understand that, hey, if I have built a life that I am proud of now, that I have learned things from that past, from that pain, can you really not own it, right? Can you really be, because if it allowed me to be who I am today, right? And so when I work with my clients on that, it's simply having them, we don't spend a lot of time on the past, but it's helping them understand, how did my brain develop into who it is today, like the sense of identity. What do I like? What do I don't like? And it's simply an objective, hey, what do I want to lean into? What do I want to lean away from? And that's it. Craft a vision of the person that you want to be. Live in the vision of that person rather than a reflection of the past. And that is the formula to really find that sense of growth and purpose that we all crave in life.
Oh my gosh. That was such a beautiful, I feel like that's the thought that I want to leave everyone with. And thank you so much, sincerely from my heart, as someone who admires you and loves you and respects you so very much. Thank you for being here. I feel like we could talk for another hour.
I know. I love all of the things that you're saying. It's just lights me up. It's so good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. And everyone, remember, go out and get the book, The Emotionally Healthy You, and leave a review.
And if you find this podcast is fun or interesting, you love it, please share some words of encouragement. We love that. If you want to reach Dr. K, we'll make sure to include his information in the show notes. And make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
The
recording you just listened to consists of the personal opinions of Dr. Nicole Kane, a naturopathic doctor with a master's in clinical psychology, and Happy Healthy Hadlee, an Ayurveda expert with a master's in health behavior and health education. While these opinions are based upon literature, counseling, education, medical training, and clinical experience, this content should not be viewed as the definitive opinion on these subjects. Listening to this podcast is not a substitute for any sort of medical, psychological, or other form of treatment. If you are in a crisis, please call 911 or call the National Suicide Prevention Line at 1-800-273-8255. If you are in need of counseling, don't hesitate to make an appointment with a counselor in your area. Dr. Nicole and Hadlee are passionate about you becoming the expert of your own emotional and physical well-being. If this resonates with you and you think this podcast would help someone you love, please share it with them. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Holistic Inner Balance podcast.